How sweet it is. The streets are buzzing. Ladies and gentlemen, the New York Knicks put the beat down on the Heat, winning the season series for the first time in 30 years. Big up to Knicks family. Let's break this thing down with the best chat in the biz as Josh Hart ties Walt Clyde Frazier for his 8th triple-double on the season, right? And the New York Knicks now move 43-24 on the season, winning this one in emphatic style with Clyde back on the call, 116-95, holding the Miami Heat to under 100 points. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said before, man, how sweet it is. In the words of Clyde, let's break this thing down. Feel good win with Jalen Brunson out, and you chalk up every single dub with Brunson out, and with a smile tonight, the Knicks did it comfortably off a huge second quarter from Karl Anthony Towns. As Alan Hahn just said in the walk-off interview, man, 15 straight points from Karl Anthony Towns in the second quarter, right? The first time that's done in the play-by-play era. 15 straight buckets, man. And the Knicks defense was stymieing Mitchell Robinson back in prime form. And let's talk about it and give out these grades. Salute to the chat. Guys, I see you. Chance in the building. And Tibbs is all smiles tonight. 2 game balls, man. Karl Anthony Towns will get the first one. 15 straight points in the second. That, created a huge swing. And a 41-15 third quarter. Blew the game wide open. And the other one, Josh Hart, 8th triple-double on the season, finished with 12 rebounds, 12 points, 13 assists, 13 rebounds, 11 assists, and 4 steals, ladies and gentlemen. So 12 points, 13 rebounds, 11 assists, 4 steals, and an absolute monster performance from Josh Lionheart in this one. We had PJ Tucker chance. And look, Mitch is going to be one of the unsung heroes, I think, in this game, because the trend I'm seeing, man, defensively, we're going to pull up the numbers live tonight. I'm going to look back at the last 10 ball games, and let's look at the Knicks defense, right, since Mitch has returned, and the New York Knicks are surging up the defensive power rankings, right? This 3 was for Josh Hart's triple-double, and he got the assists he needed in the third quarter. The assists were wrapped up. He just needed the bucket to get over 10 points and hit a three-pointer, man, to finish with 12. We had a very eventful ball game tonight, man. Third quarter, huge break, because courtside, Tracy Morgan apparently was wheeled off on a wheelchair after feeling sick. And prayers up to Tracy Morgan as well. But it caused a big delay. There was vomit. And obviously he had to be attended to. And that created a huge delay. It was only a 6-point ball game at that point. But Deuce McBride hit a big 3 after that resumed, and that stretched it back out to 9. And I think that was a really critical point in the ball game where the Heat just didn't have it going. They went cold, and we locked them up. I see you, G Money, Connor T, Buzzer Beater. How you guys feeling, fam? Blessings and big up. This is a feel-good win, man. Anytime you beat the Heat, we know how much it means, means that little bit extra, maybe a lot more extra. But obviously the way we did it, holding them to 95 points as well. Gritty defense. You see OG with the SWAT there as well. It was a game of runs, man. Mikal Bridges, 9 consecutive points as well. Everybody eats, as it says in the caption. And that is the mood, man. That is the story to come out of this ball game, right? No Jalen Brunson. They're starting to feel more comfortable dealing with life without Jalen Brunson. And guys are stepping up, man. That's all you could ask for with the captain being out. And, learning to take on a larger role. Everybody's role seems to be, expanded in a way. It was Cat, the All NBA All Star, that really gave us that jolt because it was a slow start. It was a slow start. So Chance says, nice win. Love that Bridges is showing out. Yeah, you and me both, fam. G Money says, heck yeah, we molly-whopped and sent them deeper into the shadow realm. Yeah, holding on to that 9th seed, the Heat, for dear life. Connor T says, great bounce back for Hart and for Michi. Definitely, man. Buzzabita says, what's good, Knicks family. Shez V, always fun to watch that blowout and love to beat these teams, especially the Heat. The ball movement was excellent on this one. We saw some good high-low and a good slip screen. Cat finding Bridges. That was the play that pretty much broke the back, I think, of the Miami Heat. And Eric Spoelstra had no answer. He had no answer for the Knicks' energy tonight. And, the fact that it was only a 2-point ball game back in the first half, at the half, and I think the New York Knicks locked in and they came out strong, man. One of our best quarters of the season in that third. And a lot of credit to the guys, coming off a huge road trip, showing that energy in that third. No letdowns, man. It was only a 2-point ball game, but one of the best quarters of the season, fam. 41-15, third quarter, as I've got in the notes. As I predicted, man, we're going to go through the rest of the wins in the schedule coming up now. We've got the Spurs on the road and the Hornets, but we're getting some home cooking right now. Hart ties Walt Frazier for the 8th triple-double in a season, man, and he gets that game ball, man. The donut in the last game, what a turnaround, man. And that, that epitomizes who Josh Hart is. Like, he's just, at times, a frustratingly maddening, exceptional lightning rod of a player for this ball club, man. Ever since he stepped foot in the door, he's definitely embody what it is to be a New York Knick. He wears number 3, man, and John Starks, basically a similar type player, man. You catch lightning in a bottle with him, man. You ride him, but he plays the right way, and he wasn't hesitating tonight. That's what I liked. He was firing at will. I think, he obviously had those words with Tibbs. Maybe that lit a fire under him and both, but he got right tonight, man. 5 of 9, 12 points, plus 31. Man, in a big-time game as well. He gets one of the game balls, and Cat gets the other one. Yours truly, bless up. I see you. Buzzer says that, yeah, prayers up for Tracy Morgan as well. It was, a crazy situation. I'm not going to bring up a lot of these, graphics of him feeling sick on that sidelines, man, but obviously, it's out there. It was a crazy situation, but hopefully he's all good. That break was crazy. It was really a 5-6 minute break, and I was worried that the Knicks would come out cold, but Deuce McBride hit that big shot, man, and 9 points. After that, the Knicks did not look back. Buzzer says we need only 7 more wins to reach 50 as well. So that's a great milestone from you as well. 43 wins now. And without the captain, we're showing the strength of our squad, and guys are stepping up. Right. We're going to get through each grade, obviously, in the bench, but honorable mention and shout out to Landry, Shamet, and Mitch off our bench. Deuce McBride, we're going to get to in a minute as well. Right. Really stepping up in the absence of JB with 10 points plus 9 tonight. Not his finest game, but the others really stepped it up. A lot of playmaking from Hart tonight. Tay says it, beautiful basketball in the third. It was an aggressive Mikal, an all-star level. Michi is a difference maker, and Tibbs should have let the rookies rock at 5 minutes left. I like that take, fam, and I completely agree. Mitch is looking better and better. Rusty performance last game, but tonight, Mitch looked excellent. But putting the ball on the floor a lot more. 5 of 7. Got some put back love from. Got some alley-oops from Hart, and obviously rebounding and beasting on the glass, man. 5 offensive boards, man. Isaiah Hartenstein, who in 23 minutes, Michi pulled in 9 rebounds. To think we're going to get Huck Porty back as well before the postseason starts, God willing. And look, yeah, defense fueled our offense. And I know at times I've been critical of the Knicks offense under Tibbs, and it was on full display in that first quarter. The Knicks got down early, 13-point deficit. It had all the hallmarks of a letdown performance and a game that was going to leave us frustrated. The Knicks just didn't look organized early. Guys didn't know who was going to shoot the shot, and guys just couldn't get it going. But then our defense really fueled our offense, and Cat got those big threes, trailing. And here's a big jam where he took it strong to the rack, and he was getting them in all sorts of pain, right? Draining and paining with the 15 straight buckets. 15 straight points from Karl Anthony Towns, man. The first in the play-by-play era, according to Alan Hahn. And man, it was electric, man. One of the loudest I've shouted all season when that trailing 3 went down for the 15th straight point. Let us know how you reacted to that one. Buzzer says we got that 3rd seed on lock. Yeah, we do. We need the captain to come back, obviously, but I'm glad these guys have got to figure things out for themselves, and I think that's going to pay dividends later. Ernest says tonight we saw what a difference Michi makes as well. Yep. Timely from you, Ernest. I like that. And I just pull up the grades from the bench, right? Mitch gets the A. He gets an A from me off the bench in his role, man. 9 rebounds, 23 minutes, 5 offensive as well. Buzzer likes the grades. You co-sign. Flizzy Flex says PJ not getting in the game for his home debut was punishment for dapping up Draymond. Yeah, Tibbs was trolling, man. Tibbs was trolling. PJ should have got in that ball game. Most definitely. We're going to take a look at the rest of the league tonight because a big game in the standings, which is basically Indiana facing Minnesota as well. There's a chance Indiana can climb, fam. There's a chance that Detroit can climb over Indiana, which means we would face Indiana in the 6th spot. So we're going to take a look at that in a minute. But here's one of Mitch's plays, man. Mop-up duty from Mitch Robb. He gets the A from me tonight. This is evolution, man. We haven't seen this a lot with Mitch, right? This is the anti-Jericho Sims, right? By the way, prayers up, shout out to Jericho. I got news pre-game that he's going to be out for 4 weeks. Now, that's a tough blow for Minnesota. If you haven't seen, he had a minor operation, I think on his shoulder or another part. So Jericho is going to be out for a minute. But this is the type of stuff that we wanted to see from Jericho. And Mitch is evolving now, putting the basketball on the floor and not passing it back out. Right. Recognizing that Harquez is the smaller man and go strong with the first dribble, back his man down and put him, right, in the weight room. Mitchell Robinson with the left. The lucky left, man. Shout out to those today, man. St. Patrick's Day buzz tonight. Chris Gotti says Mitch looked good. Definitely. David Haas wants to see more of the double big lineups. Yeah, and the defense is starting to cook. Yeah, man, no coincidence. The big lineups are a big key. No layups. 90s style. 95 points we're giving up right now. As I said, man, we're going to do this live. I'm going to pull up the stats and we're going to look at where the Knicks defense sits over the last 10 games. Because I think that's a good enough sample to recognize the difference, that Mitchell Robinson has shown for this ball club. But also everyone else has been stepping up, Deuce's defense, the job he did on Steph Curry kind of went under the radar because, Steph pulled it out and, it was frustrating. Some of us lost our heads after that one because, the Golden State game with the Draymond clown show, we wanted to pull that one out. But it was a tough end to the road trip and we get back to home cooking now, man. Tibbs has options. And to David's point, man, I want to see more of the Mitch Cat thing. Is Tibbs saving that for for the money time, for the postseason? Let's wait and see. But if you notice, slowly Mitch's minutes are getting up, man. This is the most minutes that he has played since returning, with 23 tonight. 23 minutes. So is he going to get some starting opportunities potentially even before Brunson gets back? Right. I thought this is one of Precious Achua's best games as well, in a minute. So, honorable shout out to Precious Achua. Right. As we're thriving, Philadelphia's diving, man. Paul George, PG-13, is out for the season. It's a wrap. It's a wrap in Philly. It might be a wrap on the whole process, man, with Joel Embiid, maybe in trade rumors. He's been shut down. Philadelphia's in 12, so it's not like we're really going to see them in the playoffs. They're done, man. But we also got news. PG is out now officially. So we do play Philadelphia again. I think that's going to be another dub. Like I said, guys, a lot of teams are shutting things down. And at first I thought, it's going to be tough to hold on to that third spot. But right now it's looking real good if the New York Knicks can continue their winning ways, man. The next three on the slate, the Spurs away in Charlotte, and then back home for the Wiz, fam. So let's make this a 5-game winning streak. I think we can do it, and I will break that down more as we go tonight. But Mitch was a demon on the glass, man. He bullied Kalel Ware, which is great to see. And our demon is back, man. We're not having to rely too much on Cat defensively. Chris says, I like Mitch shooting for his shot. Definitely. Stefan says, we look good tonight. Let Brunson rest up. That's a key point, man. As we continue winning, what's the point in risking Cap? Wait till he's fully ready to go and locked and loaded for the playoffs. But ideally, I would love to bring JB back, with a week to go. Right? And for those that have missed it, Hart posted the 8th triple-double of his season, and it ties Clyde back in 68-69 season for the most New York Knicks triple-doubles in a single season. It also marks his 14th triple-double as a New York Knick, which is now ranking to 4th in franchise history. So we tie a ribbon and bow on this performance from Hart. We move on, talk about Cat. But before we do that, Hart gets an A++. We don't give these out like candy, man. But how could you not give Hart an A++ tonight? He did everything, man. Playmaking, scoring, shooting threes, non-hesitant, and rebounding, including that hustle play where he stripped Kalel Ware and got the pass back to Mitch for the easy bucket as well. And also how ironic it is that to achieve the triple-double tonight, Hart hits a 3. Right. You think a rebound would seal a triple-double for Hart. You think an assist. You think maybe even a driving layup. But no, none of that. Hart says, let me hit a 3. Let me hit a 3 to chalk up my 8th triple-double of the season, man. Right. This is a guy that works on his game, and, I love Hart's work ethic because, when he struggles, he usually bounces back, and we know how frustrating he can be. He deserved the criticism after last game, man. It was unacceptable. I gave him a D. Some people gave him F. It was a donut. But what a way to bounce back, man, with a triple-double. Right? It's insane. Stefan says Tibbs talking up 2 centers on the court at the same time. Yeah. Let's hope, we know Tibbs really wants to pull that bubble wrap off Mitch, man. He wants to play Mitch 35. Best believe that. Jay Mars is in the building. I see you. How about OG, man? Superb defense here. Locking up Hero. Man. Suffocating him like a blanket. Paula says the whole team was cooking, and I give them a whole. Let's just give everyone an A. Fam, I'm with it. I'm with it. Julian says Hart ran the team better than Cam and Deuce. Maybe he should take charge here on out. Yeah, fast breaks, fam. Fast break transition play is key. And definitely our defense has to fuel our offense, man. We're not great in the half court, sort of slow pace, grind it down. It's very predictable for the defense to get set. And that's why we started slow. I tweeted it out, but it was a really, really disgusting start to tonight because, they just didn't look like they were on the court mentally. Physically, there was 5 New York Knicks players, suited, but they just didn't feel like they were there mentally, and the Heat were just doing whatever they liked. But then whatever happened, man, it flipped. It flipped like a switch. It might have been a bucket. I think Bridges got our first 3. I think it was like 13-0. Bridges got a 3, and then we're on the board, man. And then we slowly started to chip away and get stops as well. But how good has Mikal Bridges been, man? Right? As I want to shout out Mikal and Kat now equal because both A pluses. Kat changed the game, no doubt about it. He gets the second game ball because 15 points in a row. I mean, that, you have to live for maybe 10 years, 20, 15 years to see that happen, to score 15 straight points, man. And he's such a talented ball player when he gets going, right? And I'm going to pull this up while we're, shouting out Kat and also shouting you guys out. This is something that's key and we need to really look at, Tibbs and for the run home for the postseason. But this is the shot chart from Karl Anthony Towns tonight, fam. Right. What sticks out to you? Right. We're getting more 3-point attempts with Brunson no longer on the court, right? Because he's usually there, top of the key, handling the rock, making decisions, and it's tough for Kat to come out there. And like Buzz has been talking about, we want to see more pick and pop, but we just haven't been able to see that. Now, this is what I want Kat's shot chart to look like when Jalen Brunson returns, because it's either a 3 or a layup or a dunk, man. It's either an efficient point in the restricted area or it's exactly what Kat wants, which is an open trailing 3, from a fast break or pick and pop, whatever it is, man. But Kat got into a rhythm tonight because he was able to, get the basketball. You have to feed your big man in terms of, your scorer and your dynamic, player on offense. And I just love all those buckets down low. And then obviously the 3 big splashes that help fuel the big run. So salute to Cardiac. I see you. So glad the Heat didn't snap their losing streak against our Knicks. Yeah, 8 on the trot for losses now for the Miami Heat now. And the first time in 30 years that the New York Knicks have swept the Miami Heat. Pat Riley, all of that, man. Is Pat washed? Is Pat Riley washed up right now? The Heat are in flux, man. They're not bad enough to tank. And they're not good enough to compete right now. Yeah, Paula mentioned Scott Foster left the game. We finished tonight's ball game with just 2 referees as well, which is unbelievable. Tay says, with JB making the full recovery, I can say the injury could be a blessing in disguise. We have an identity without JB and the players are getting confidence. Absolutely. Obviously, yeah, it's tough to say blessing in disguise, but I completely understand what you mean, because, it forced these guys to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's my mantra, fam, in life. To succeed, you got to be comfortable getting uncomfortable. And when JB was with us, man, everyone was comfortable. Now these guys had to get uncomfortable, man. But now they're starting to get comfortable, if you know what I mean. AP says CT 40 points for Grimes. Did Tibbs cost us a promising player? I think a couple of teams have messed up. Obviously Grimes is getting an opportunity now, and you just never know when a player is going to get that moment to really, uh, you know, um, show out. I was going to say another phrase, but um, I'll say show out because he's starting to get that chance. Dallas gave up on him. Detroit also gave up on Q Dot as well. But I like the trade at the time. Obviously, hindsight's tough. But Grimes was in a contract year now, and someone's going to have to pay him. And we'll see how it plays out. Bridges is obviously stepping up his game. But yeah, I would love Grimes, but I probably prefer Dante. I'm not going to lie, man. Dante could be that missing piece to get back onto this ball club. And I know maybe most of you have seen the commercial that's come out today from AT&T as well. That was a very nostalgic viewing for the new AT&T commercial with the 4 Villanova guys as well. Maybe bring that up later tonight. But salute to the guys. Bridges A+, Cat and J Hart for the game balls. Now next up, OG Anunoby. Right. But obviously, yeah, Bridges, 9 straight points is a big thing as well. And obviously, yeah, as we looked at Cat's shot chart, was big. The Knicks also forcing so many turnovers, man. The Heat had 20 turnovers tonight. The Knicks thrived with the second chance points. We beat them at the rebounding with our dual bigs, despite Khalil Ware being there as well. We had 30 assists, and we shot basically 50% from the field, 47% from downtown, and we finished with more blocks and more steals than the opponent, fam. So our defense is really starting to step up, man, in a major way. And I just want to bring this thing up because, as James L. Edwards points out, Mitchell Robinson has had his hands everywhere on D tonight. Feels like he has 100 stocks. Yeah, and I know coincidence, man. We won the steals and the blocks, tonight in this one. And so, feel good win and a much needed win, obviously. Now we are 3-3 over the last 6. Big time to basically gather this momentum without JB, right? Bridges finished 10 of 14, 4 of 6 as well. I think that's his best 3-point shooting night for a minute because Bridges has been good in the mid-range, getting to the cup, but he hasn't been shooting the basketball really well from downtown recently. And tonight he finished 66%. I think he's the guy that's benefiting the most, man, with Jalen Brunson out. What do you guys say? If you had to say there's one guy that's benefiting the most from JB being out, who would you say that has been? Right? You can make a case for Cat. He's getting some more touches. I would say OG is definitely a guy getting more touches as well. But I'll probably say at the top is Mikal. Jay Ma says that Mikal is doing Mikal things because he's more part of the offense and plays are being ran constantly for him not to sit in that corner or wait till Brunson gets a flat tire. Yeah, I think everyone's kind of moving and grooving in the words of Clyde, man. He makes it sound so simple, but basketball can be a simple game, seeing the ball, seeing the man, and then moving without the ball, so that the defense constantly has to, account for you as well. D. Grant says, CT, one thing you got to never doubt is Pat Riley. He may make his moves next year, you won't believe. Heat always scares me. I think he's in a situation where it's kind of like it's favorable for him in terms of Miami, 305, the heat, the sun, the action, the beach. It's a free agent destination. If Pat Riley was the president of the Utah Jazz, then he's really got to earn his money, like Danny Ainge is having to do. But definitely, Pat, it pains me to say it, is definitely, he's got the secret sauce. He knows how to build a winner. Yeah, Tay agrees, getting comfortable with getting uncomfortable. 100%. You got to be prepared, They say, the winner is the most prepared in the room, or however it goes, and the playoffs are going to hit, Knicks fam. And so what's going to happen when the defense takes away the first thing you like to do, the second thing you like to do, the third thing you like to do? What's next? What have you got? And we're really learning to be, more comfortable being uncomfortable when it comes to that. But, right, I'd be remiss if I wouldn't give a huge shout out defensively now to two or three of our biggest monsters defensively, man. They go by the names of OG Anunoby, Deuce McBride, Mitchell Robinson, and Mikal Bridges to an extent now. And obviously, we know what Hart can do. But to the extent of these guys, like, I would say there's probably no 3 to 4 more important players for us defensively than those guys. And they're really starting to really step up now. And also, look, Landry Shamet, man, I mean, he's been solid defensively basically since he got meaningful minutes. Great block from Hart there, pushed the break on this one. And he found Cat. And then look at the ball move like a hot potato. This is my favorite possession of the night, man. And then Cat fakes the three. Bridges keeps moving, man. That's how we got to play without Brunson. You got to learn to play different ways. And obviously we don't have that dynamic go-to scorer and closer that Brunson is, but you got to keep the ball moving and then the defense moving. Because the Heat are still a good defensive team. They didn't have Wiggins tonight, and they were missing somebody else, I think. But we made them scramble. They just did not know where the shot was coming from. Tonight. So yeah, the Knicks got out the mud real quick. Yeah, Julian says it, man. The Dante commercial hurt. Definitely, man. And yeah, I feel AP on the Quentin Grimes situation. I would love to have Quentin back with this club because I think he would definitely be a 20-point per night guy off our bench. But if I had to pick a guy, man, it's got to be DiVincenzo, I think, as a guy that I think would definitely add more grit, scoring, catch and shoot, moxie, all of those things, man. It's kind of crazy how one player that we used to have would add everything that we need right now. But not to take away what they're doing right now. They're stepping up. It's going to be very interesting if and when Brunson's ready to go. How quick do they pull that trigger? How quick do they pull the trigger to get Brunson back? Because by the time Brunson's back, Mitch is going to be about 20 to 35 games in. And could that be a time when you could start to see maybe Mitchell Robinson start? Could that be a moment where if we face, Indiana, Detroit, obviously in the second round, we might face Boston and then further Cleveland. There's going to be those moments where Mitch together with Karl Anthony Towns, and I think, that is going to be a recipe for success because Cat's going to be able to play the power forward. He's going to be able to come out, pull that power forward out of the paint as well. Mitch is going to be able to, pull in those rebounds if he misses, box out, go up and under like he did tonight with the put back. I think is key as well, guys. So also shout out to seeing Kolek get a few plays happening in garbage time tonight. Dardier as well. We got to see Anton Watson with his first bucket. Yeah, he looks like a decent a decent development player on the two-way that we might see next season. But to round out the starters tonight, man, Deuce McBride finished 4 of 12, didn't have it going offensively, but was still +9. Played great defense, knocked down 2 threes as well. So gonna give Deuce the love because he's been great defensively, and OG Anunoby, man, was a demon tonight as well. And they really stepped it up when they had to, because a 2-point deficit. AP says, CT, I need to start seeing this against good playoff teams. Absolutely, me too, and it's coming. Hopefully, we've got some tougher matchups later in the season, but the next 5, I think the Knicks should go on a 5-game win streak, fam. The Spurs, Charlotte, Washington, and then another bad team as well. But it's come at the right time, because JB is out. Like Stefan says, get JB good and healthy. Cardiac says the Heat look like they are on the down low tank. Yeah, they're a pretty smart organization, man. I wouldn't be surprised. Also, Cardiac says Hart snapping out of that funk was a pleasure to see. Yeah, absolutely. I think also the exchange maybe between Tibbs and him. Those guys are cool despite what people think, because we've seen it on the podcast. Tibbs calls JB, he calls Josh Hart. They're on first name basis off the court, and Tibbs be low key hitting these guys up. Tibbs is doing nothing but watching film in the office, eating pizza. Maybe a Bud Light or whatever it is he likes to drink, and all he does is watch film and call these guys, man, in his off time. Al Tangos, great to see you. Blessings finally clicking. Defense is clicking, and this is something to build on. Cat Mitch lineup is coming in full effect. Man, I'm seeing Mitch 23 minutes tonight. Yeah, is big time. To know where he's come from and to see his comeback, it's just been an absolute pleasure. And God willing, it continues to go up and up from here. Do I really want Mitch playing 30 minutes a night on this team? That's up for debate. It depends, I guess, the opponent. It depends on how the game is going. Is Cat struggling? All of those things, etc. But all things being equal, I think Mitch playing maybe 25 could be sweet spot, right? Because you obviously got other guys to fit into the rotation. You want to play faster at times, and Mitch is still gassed throughout the ball game. So you got to quickly get, plan those substitutions, get him a breather, and then get him in back, in and out. But tonight, I think Tibbs absolutely nailed the substitutions with Mitchell Robinson. It was defense, offense. It was, him and Cat were trading places like fries and shake. They were trading places, and it worked out. And we turned the water off the Heat. Whatever offense they were running tonight, man, they were just basically trying to run a Tyler Hero, anything offense with Duncan Robinson sprinkled in, and we shut Bam Adebayo down. Credit to the bigs, Cat, Mitch. Bam Adebayo has been killing us for years now, but the last 3 games this season, we win the season series now, and Bam hasn't been a factor, man. Yep. D Grant says, CT, what college do you attend or completed in the University of Australia? Yeah, man, I did my studies in Australia locally, but I've lived in the States. I lived in Los Angeles, actually, for a minute. So, yeah, definitely know what it's like. In terms of, Knicks games and all of that, man, I've got to definitely make big plans to hopefully hit up MSG in the coming year. But most of the Knicks games I've attended have been formerly at the Staples Center, now Crypto Arena as well. I know how cheap tickets were as well, man. Knicks Clippers, man. One game I sat like in the 3rd row. Man, of a Knicks Clippers game, man, all it cost was like a couple of hundred. And I was like in the third row, basically behind the bench. So, man, I definitely admire those that can get to most of the games at MSG because I know how expensive it is. But yeah, now we show some love to our bench because I thought everyone was pretty solid. Obviously Mitch and Shamet very good, but Precious Achua's best game, probably in the last like couple of weeks for Mr. Achua. There was no Butterfingers tonight. He was solid with the basketball. He was making plays. Finished 2 of 3, 3 rebounds, plus 10, 4 points from Achua in 10 minutes. If Tibbs wants to keep him, if he wants to keep him in the rotation, it's probably going to be that 5 to 10 minutes. 5 if he's stinking up the joint. 10 minutes if he's doing well. With Mitch back, it's tough. It's tough for Achua because I think without Mitch, he's obviously a 25 to 30 minute a night guy, but now he's having to accept like a lesser role, a significant reduction, and obviously, he just has to be ready whenever his number's called. He needs to come in and make an impact. I think his mobility defensively was good tonight, and his disruption in those minutes, he was a plus 10. So that was big. AP says, right now, let's go get to 50. Yep. I love to see that. But yeah, I think with guys stepping up now, we're definitely going to get to 50, I feel. So I'm going to bring up the schedule, right? We'll see what happens around the league tonight. But on that note, we got the Spurs, Charlotte back-to-back away. But obviously the Spurs, those that don't know, there's no Wembanyama. There's no De'Aaron Fox. They're full tank mode. And then you've got the Hornets as well. Same deal. Washington, I think they're young enough and they've got enough talent where they're trying to win games, but obviously they're not good enough. But they did upset the Denver Nuggets the other day. First round draft pick Alex Sarr hit, I think, 30 points and had a big night. And so that could be a challenge. Washington have been chippy when they played us, but hopefully that should be a 4-game win streak. And then we know Dallas. We got 2 days rest. We face Dallas at home, and Dallas are without most of their players. They're in talks to possibly forfeit some games, which I don't think is going to happen. But basically, that's how bad their situation is right now, man. And then that's the first of a back-to-back before the Clips come into town. So we should either be on a 4-game win streak, 5-game win streak before the Clippers come into town, man. We have to take care of business. That's going to get us up to 47, 48 wins. And then we only need to get 3 or 4 more, I think, in the rest of April to lock up that third seed, fam. So here's to you. Cheers. And let's keep going. Right. I mentioned earlier that Indiana are a chance to lose the spot in the 5th spot and arguably go down to 6 if the Detroit Pistons can keep winning. Right. I think that could be a low-key blessing because I do think Indiana are going to be more of a street ball up and down game. And I do think the Detroit series could be more of a prison ball type series, physical, all of that. Now I can already hear some people say, don't be worried about different matchups, etc., etc. But I do think that Detroit might be a tougher matchup than Indiana, fam. So let's pull this up. Let's see how things played out. Minnesota versus Indiana tonight. And it looks like the game is still going, man. OT action right now. We have Indiana up by a point with 27 seconds to go in overtime. And it looks like Indiana depleted tonight. They've got Obi starting. Basically, no Halliburton, no Miles Turner. They're in a situation where their young fellas are stepping up. Benedict Mathurin. And basically, if I pull up the table right now, if Indiana drop this game, they are only 1 game ahead of the Detroit Pistons. So I think the Pistons are a real shot to keep winning. It's a leapfrog Indy, which would create a series between the Bucks and the Pistons, man, which would be absolute box office, in my opinion. Giannis going up against the young Pistons, and a rematch, a grudge match from last year's round 2 between the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers in the 3-6 situation, man. El Tango says 10-5 is doable for us. Yep, I like to see that. Lonnie Salute says, give Mitch his flowers. Nice to see Mitchie and Towns together. Yes, sir. And I love what I'm seeing from Mitchie right now. He was our A off the bench tonight. He was our A. And in the biggest, largest minutes of the season for Mitch, 23 tonight. He was incredible. And I've got to give Tibbs the grade right now, fam, because I mentioned earlier, I did feel like Tibbs got the substitutions perfect between Cat, Mitch. You know, Mitch looked gassed, and then he subbed him out, and then he got him back in there quickly. And so it was a good night. It was a good night from Tom Thibodeau, right? But it was a slower start. It was a slower start, and Cat had to get us going, right? But when he did, we were basically a well-oiled machine tonight. So I'm going to give Tibbs a B+. Yeah, Stefan, the Knicks are going to get ready for the playoffs, definitely. Yours truly says, I think we're being underrated as a team. We could make the guys play harder in the playoffs, and we could get some upsets against the big teams who they think they got our number. CT for real. I don't think any team will really sleep on the Knicks. Yeah, they might favor their chances against us more, but I do think that, when all said and done, I do think that most people would take the Knicks more seriously. However, I do think, Indiana would be a great series, man. David says, I'd rather see the Pacers than Detroit. Yeah, absolutely. I understand. Styles make fights. I'm not saying one team is better than the other necessarily. What I'm saying is, like, styles can make fights, and certain styles, the Knicks have had struggles against. I mean, you and me, we all know this team better than anybody because, we watch all 82. We're diehards, we're locked in. And we know the Knicks can have certain struggles against certain types of teams. And, Detroit have got a really, they've got a really big point guard, who can defend Jalen Brunson well, because of his size. And they've also got Malik Beasley, who's having a NBA season best catch and shoot, percentage. He's an absolute flamethrower right now. And the Knicks' 3-point defense is still our weakness. And so, bring on Indiana if I had to make a choice. If I had to make a decision, fam. But I bring this up again for those that haven't seen. This is Karl Anthony Towns' shot chart. And this is what I would like to see his shots look like when Jalen Brunson returns, fam. Cut out the mid-range stuff, but restricted area, layups and dunks, post-ups, and splash from above the break. That's going to make the New York Knicks incredibly difficult to guard, and especially it means we're getting good floor spacing. Because let's face it, guys, Cat had been lucky to average 4 threes, 4 3 attempts, I'm talking about, before this tonight. When Brunson had been playing, and it's on everybody, it's on Tibbs, the point guards and all of that, but we just haven't been able to get Cat unlocked, against good defenses. And look, the Heat aren't a good team, but their defense is pretty good. And so without Brunson, we found a way to obviously pull Bam out of the paint and get Cat going, I think, which is significant. And we need to keep that rolling, man. We need to bottle that as a recipe for success right now. So yeah, we're talking about the playoffs. The Knicks are getting set. We are starting to show life of the 90s defense with our anchor and rim protection now. As I promised, guys, I'm going to bring up our defense. Just bear with me as I keep spitting, and I'm going to bring this up via NBA.com. And let's take a look at the Knicks defense over the last 10 ball games, right? We know Mitch has been back for a minute now. We've been holding some teams under 100 points. I'm fascinated to see what things look like defensively, especially over the last 10 ball games. So we'll get this going. David says, I love how our defense is coming together, and we just got to get JB on board. Tay says, CT, do you prefer a new coach? Let's say anything below an Eastern Conference Finals appearance. Yeah, I think, as I've spoken previously, I think Tibbs has done a good job in his overall tenure with the New York Knicks. I wouldn't say it's a failure at all. I think he's done a good job. He's helped us set the table. I think he has, helped develop some players in terms of Mitch, Hart, Deuce. I think there is some things, though, that we have to be better at to get to the top, and be looking down on everybody and win that chip. And I think that's a coach who could, have a more, expansive playbook. But outside of that, I think Tibbs has shown he can coach an elite defense. He can get a team's defense to where it needs to be. Can he do that for the offense? And how reliant is he on JB? Because basically Tibbs, I think, will go as far as his point guard can take the team, right? And I know that's kind of funny to say for a defensive specialist coach, but if you look at all the success Tibbs has had, look at the point guards he's had. It was Derrick Rose, and it's been Jalen Brunson now. So Tibbs relies heavily on a point guard, and as the extension on the court, to bail him out a lot of times offensively. Tendrell salute says Pacers just beat the Wolves in OT. So, yeah, that changes things slightly. But basically, yeah, we are, as I'll refresh, the Pacers will briefly hold on to the 5th spot, but it doesn't change. It doesn't change a lot in terms of the Pistons still right on their tail. Looks like Randall missed the shot at the buzzer that would have sent it to second OT. Shout out to Randall as well. They're really starting to find some rhythm in Minnesota now. It's going to be entertainment in the West with the matchups. But also likewise in the East, I think Detroit might catch Indiana, and that would make things, I think, slightly more favorable for the New York Knicks. But let's see. It's not like the Knicks can't handle the Pistons. Maybe the lights will be a little bit too bright for Detroit. First time run. We all know how that goes. Maybe they'll push a team, hard fought 6-7 game series, and maybe they're happy about that, and they could build on that for next season. But you just don't know, man. Maybe the Pistons look like they belong when they get to the postseason, and maybe they're a giant killer. In which case, you don't want no parts of that, right? If Cade starts to feel good and get hot as well, and we know Beef Stew's going to feel comfortable, in the Garden as well. Right, but as we keep going, I'm getting these defensive stats up, right? And we'll go from there. But I'm really keen to see how the Knicks defense looks over the last 10. So we're getting the traditional stats up, right? And right now, defense plus minus is super key. For that, we're going to have to go to the advanced statistics. J.I. says, CT, don't sleep on Detroit. You never know. Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely, man. They're on the upward, fam. They're on the upward trajectory. So just to start defensively now, as a whole season, the New York Knicks now sit after 67 ball games. We are 14th. 1-4 in defense, 14th in the league, keeping teams to 113. Right. The best defense is the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is 106. Right. So let's get this thing up right on the screen. We get this popping. Right. Yep. So here we go. As you can all see now, hopefully, the New York Knicks are here, 14th on the season now, which is, hey, league average, ladies and gentlemen. That's how much of an impact Mitch has had since coming back. We are now a league average, above league average defense for the whole season. Right. Offense, where does our offense sit? We are 5th. So we have the 5th best offense and the 14th best defense, which is above league average too. And obviously a top 5 offense. You combine those two things, man, and you have a top 5 team in the NBA. Net rating, well, just top 6. Top 6 by 0.3. 0.3%, the Houston Rockets are slightly ahead in net rating, right? And they have a very similar record, of course, 43-25. The New York Knicks 43-24. Now, obviously, we hope that Jalen Brunson's not out for very long because, the Knicks metrics will slide the more, tough teams that we play. With that said, but let me now take a look at, let's take a look now at the last 10 games, ladies and gentlemen. We do this thing on the fly, right? The last 10 games, the Knicks are 6-4, and that's hopefully including tonight, because I don't know how quick this thing refreshes. We know tonight's ball game just finished, right? But if we pull this thing up, ladies and gentlemen, ding, 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 the New York Knicks coming in now as a top 2 defense in the last 10 ball games. Last 10, the New York Knicks are giving up 108, which is absolutely incredible. Offensively, though, we're obviously struggling on offense over the last 10. We are all the way down to 25, right? So how sustainable is that without Jalen Brunson? Absolutely not sustainable, right? Obviously, defense is up, but offense is down. That's the trade-off. But what's going to happen when you get your top gunner back in Jalen Brunson and you keep Mitchell Robinson in the lineup, which has helped our defense get all the way up? You have the recipe for a top 5 offense and a top 10 defense. Look out. Look out, opponents, when it comes to that. So, hey, I'm excited, guys. I'm excited. Last 10 ball games, the New York Knicks have a top 2 defense. Last 15 games, let's just take a look. Let's take a look at last 15 games. Okay, we are down to 11. In the last 15 games, we're 11, right? Last 10 games, we're 2. That's how much of a Mitchell Robinson impact, fam. We jump from 11 all the way up to 2 in just 5 games. 5 less games since returning. And a lot of those are the West Coast trip, obviously. Now, just for sake, let's take a look at last 5 games, ladies and gentlemen. Last 5 games, we're top 3. Last 10 games, top 2. And you obviously see Detroit there, fam. So that is a good reason why you might not want to see Detroit, fam, in a first round series. Second round, third round, bring it on. But normally the first round series, you want to get over and done with quickly, and you want to escape, with limited damage, fam, limited mileage on the guys. Ideally, I do think one of the reasons the Knicks struggled to get out of the second round, obviously despite the obvious Game 7 and the injuries, was the fact that our guys were gassed. The first round series against Philly took a lot out. Every game was like cardiac overtimes. It was, Joel Embiid, injuries, and it was physical. It had all the kind of makings of a sort of a second and third round series. So this season, I hope it's different. But obviously, the opponents are still tough right now. But we have a top 2 defense over the last 10 games, fam. Tendrell says defense. AP says, how many wins to clinch? I don't know that for sure, but I'm going to take a quick estimate where we sit right now. How many to clinch? We've got Johnny in the building. What's up, fam? Salute. We're buzzing after the New York Knicks took care of the Heat, swept the Miami Heat for the first time in 30 years. One of these things that means a lot to me, because I'll tell you why in a second. Obviously coming up as a Knicks fan in the 90s, but also mentality, as I'm going to expand on in a minute. But to clinch, AP, I'm assuming you mean clinch playoff spot. Basically, we've got the Heat with 29 wins. We've got the Magic on 32 wins, basically. And then we've got the Pistons on 38. Right, so the Pistons are 6 games back, fam, and there's 15 games remain. So if we do the math, the Pistons 6 games back, we have 15 games remain. I'm going to say probably the magic number to clinch would be 49, 49-50. I think that would guarantee it, because I mean, look, the Pistons have, what are they, 69. They have 13 games remain. So the Pistons only have 13 games remain, right? And so let's say they win all 13, they'll finish 50. They'll finish 51 at a guarantee if they win every single game, which is not going to happen. But they would have to finish with 51 if they win every single game, which means we're going to have to win 51. But yeah, I think 50, 49, 50, that'll definitely clinch. But obviously, as Detroit continue to lose some games, I think probably 48 would clinch playoffs. Now, to clinch the third spot, the Bucks are 5 games back. So yeah, I think if the Knicks go 10-5, it's done. If they go 8-7, even, it's done. I think, yeah, 8-7 and it's done, fam. As we look at the schedule, I'll bring that up now as well. And I just want to make my point about mentality and what I want to see more from the New York Knicks, right? Have I heard the D-Book rumors, Tay? I've heard a lot of rumors coming out of Phoenix that some changes are coming. Big time changes are coming for Phoenix, fam. And so although D-Book used to be a Leon Rose client, there's a great relationship between those two. I've also heard some rumors that D-Book wants to stay in Phoenix and stay loyal to that situation. They've got a very rich owner and a very ambitious one, but obviously he probably still wants to win. So that's going to be a tough situation. So yeah, El Tango says 9 more wins, and we in there for the 3rd seed. Definitely, fam. That is what I'm looking at. Let's say the Spurs, Charlotte, Washington, Dallas. That's 4 more. That puts us to 40. That puts us to 47. And then they'll look the Clippers, Milwaukee. Let's just say Devil's Advocate. Their losses. Portland at MSG should be a win. Philly is going to be a win at MSG. That takes us to 49. ATL on the road. The Cleveland one on the road is tough. Phoenix and Boston at MSG. Then Detroit, Cleveland, and Brooklyn. So I think worst case scenario 49, but we more than likely finish 50, 51 wins, and that secures the 3rd seed. That secures the 3rd seed, fam. Let us know what you think. But yeah, to my point about the playoffs and mentality, what I want to see from this team is I want to see them step up when they're favored to win a series, right? Not underdogs when they're the favorites. Because it's one thing to have a chip on your shoulder and be the underdog and, yeah, people aren't expecting you to win and you go out, play hard, all of that. But there's a different level of expectation on your shoulders, when you're expected to take care of business. And so, whether it's against Indiana, Detroit, let's not forget, we are going to be the top seed in these matchups, fam. And we need these guys to basically, understand and know that they've got the target on their back and live up to those expectations, fam. Because there's one thing I did not like in the last game. There's one thing I did not like going back to the Golden State game, fam, which is obviously mentality, right? A lot of people have talked about the Draymond quotes, the situation with Cat. He was asked at the quarter time media interview with Lisa Salters and all of that interview and stuff, and he shook that off, and he showed mental fortitude. He stepped up in the game, but his teammates, they were obviously cordial with Draymond, and they were speaking to him, hugging and dapping him up, from Coach Tibbs to Bridges and everyone else, and that's something I did not like. That's something I did not like. I'm not saying you need to go to war and beef with these dudes and, full on go to blows and stuff, but I know it's a different NBA. But I just feel like we need to get back closer to that mindset of, hey, what are we doing this for, guys? We're trying to be locked in and win a championship together, We need to understand and go to war with these guys, and it speaks to a mentality point of view. I still feel like at times this team can be soft mentally, Physically, I think we've addressed a lot of things with Mitchell Robinson coming back, and our play can be gritty. OG's playing gritty. Hart, Bridges has stepped it up as well. But I just think mentally, it's not quite there where I want to see us basically take all these things personally, If we go back to over the years when the Knicks had to play LeBron and Steph at MSG, and I used the Steph example recently because we obviously lost to him at MSG, and obviously we lost to him recently at the Chase Center as well. But I want us to flip that switch where someone on this team, and usually it's Cat or Brunson, the team's top players, but they need to take these matchups more personally in terms of like, it really annoyed me when Steph came to MSG, and we had to live with all that. Steph is 14-1 at MSG and undefeated in 9 or 7 seasons or whatever it's been. And LeBron used to come into MSG, and he did this season as well with the Lakers. The flip the bottle game, all the hoopla, the pageantry, the Instagramming, the night celebrations, all of that. The Trae Young dice roll at the in the middle of the court. And what I want to see change over the years, coming up, is Jalen Brunson or Cat to just come into these games and say no, right? LeBron, Steph, whoever it is, you're not coming into MSG and getting you're leaving with an L, no matter what, And I'm tired of LeBron, Steph, and that coming into MSG again with all this pageantry and hoopla, and they leave with a dub. It's not good enough, in my opinion, and I want that to change. I want that to change mentally now, where X amount of players on this team just say, hey, mentally, whatever it is, I'm locked in, and national TV game, MSG, and you guys aren't coming in here to punk us. You guys are coming in. I don't care if it's, you've won 13 in a row, whatever it is, Steph Curry, trying to make the Garden his playground and all of that, man. We need to change that. We need to change that is what I'm saying. Yeah, Dinell says agreed. I'm glad people agree. Outside of that, man, the talent is there. I just feel like mentally, these guys have to start getting it, man. And it extends to the Draymond thing. It extends to the bottle flip years ago. The Steph Curry thing really, it annoyed me recently, man. It really did. They can just come in here and, do their hoopla, all of that. And maybe that is one of the reasons Draymond Green, and Jimmy Butler and that put that soft label on Cat, right? We know for sure his play's not soft. His play ain't definitely soft. Mentally, though, including Brunson as well, right? This is your arena. This is your playground. And as we start to become championship level contenders and we start to be the favorites and expected to beat, teams and live up to the billing, I think it's time that mentally the mindset flips. It flips for these big games. It's like back in the day, when the United Center and Jordan was hosting. You think he would let someone come in and and roll the dice and do this hoopla and this BS? Well, right now I'm looking at Cat. I'm looking at Brunson. You're the two teams' best players. You have to stop that. You have to stop that from happening from here on out. Right, from here on out. Otherwise, we'll just be maybe still that easy beat, the soft label, the joke, in the eyes of, many of these, elite players, elite teams, elite coaches. Now's the time this season to show that grit, show that fortitude now, where it's like, okay, we're coming in, we've drawn the Knicks. Okay, man, it's going to be jail ball, man. It's going to be jail ball now. We know what we're up against. And like I said, thankfully, Mitchell Robinson's come back because obviously, you hate to pin so much on one player, but without Mitch, I think physically we are more soft. We are more soft without Mitch. There's no doubt about it. He's added a level of toughness, size, as well as, guys stepping up. OG Bridges has stepped it up as well. So yeah, let's get your thoughts on that. Freeway Hustler. Yeah, DNL says, I agree. Freeway Hustler says, facts. I hate that they treat our court like it's a showcase. Yeah, you said it, man. Showcase. And yeah, we're all sick of it, and it frustrates me. And we all know we can't win every game, but when the lights are bright, yeah, it's over to you now, Brunson and Cat and other guys to step up, man. I'm done being someone's punk. I'm done with it. That's why I really wanted to beat Steph in that last game, because I know we've had good success back at the Chase Center recently. He came over to MSG and wanted to handle his business, and we just weren't up to it. These guys need to lock in. And like, yeah, Janelle says, I hate that they think they can go into MSG and win and shake my head. I think it's about your understanding that you're no longer the underdog, and you are a guy, Brunson and Cat, this is their playground now. You have to protect it. It's as simple as that. And the other thing that annoyed me earlier was that, LeBron, 40 years old, the night of the Luka trade, that was a key win for LA. And our defense was soft. Our defense was soft that night. And again, it was national TV, but those guys stepped up. LeBron always waxed lyrical about, how MSG is his favorite arena, and, he understands the significance, and so does Steph and all these players. But they love coming in here and putting on a show. And the captain has to put an end to that, like you said. Definitely. From here on out, not just for the rest of this season, but from here on out. And you have to approach that game with that certain mindset. Like if I'm Cat, if I'm JB, and those games roll around next season, it's like absolutely under no circumstance are these guys leaving with a dub. They're coming into MSG. Yeah, you want to celebrate. It's MSG. You want to show out. Well, guess what? You're leaving with an L. You're leaving with an L in that one, man. To hell with their sponsors and promos and all of that. Right. Tay says Westbrook is such a Knick. He would have been a low-key great signing. Let's see what happens, man. I think Leon Rose still hasn't really done much of that vet signing outside of the PJ Tucker situation. And maybe, back to that mindset point I made, maybe PJ Tucker is a guy that could help flip that mindset. We know he ain't going to play much right now, and I know a lot of people make jokes. He's getting splinters on the bench, and he's taken up somebody's spot. But ultimately, Leon Rose probably knows that mentally the team needs someone strong. You need some strong minds in there. I think Brunson has a strong mentality to perform under pressure and play hard, but that's a different level of mentality, I feel, to the one where you have to actually, step up and finish the job. Karl Anthony Towns is also a little different as well, where he can play big in big games, and he showed us a lot of fortitude in the in the Draymond situation under spotlight last game, but he ain't a guy that's going to cause conflict. Yeah, El Tango says it too. That's the LeBron-ish smile in your disappear you on the court every time. Yeah, they want to do those videos. Come to play at MSG. Yeah, most air fam. I think we'll come full circle. As you guys made great points about Pat Riley. That was one thing, and I always respect as a Knicks fan in the 90s and growing up, which made me fall in love with this team, is under Pat Riley, that would never happen. It just does not happen. Obviously, we had the personnel too. We had Oak, we had Mace, we had X-Man. We had some other gritty teams. Even back in 2013, we had Woody, we had Rasheed Wallace, we had Marcus Camby, Kurt Thomas. It's no coincidence we were built to win back then, because we were actually built up here as well. We had J.R. Smith, we had Ray Felton, we had veterans, J. Kidd, Prigioni. I mean, we actually lost talent, I think, against Indiana in that series. But in terms of beef and grit, I think that 2013 team had what it took as well. Guys were just on their last legs, the guys were on their last legs, and that it's a shame. J. Kidd was 40. Camby then retired as well, or Rasheed retired as well. But I don't quite feel that. Yeah, we've had a team as mentally strong since that team. And it's no coincidence, again, that we're about to achieve maybe 50, 53, 54 wins. And no team since that team, back in 2013, has won 54, regular season games. It takes a certain level of fortitude, to deal with with being the favourites to win 52 games, you know. Johnny says, I don't mind Knicks being friendly with opponents after games, especially when they win, but Dre was too much, especially after the Cat BS. Yep. Yeah, PJ Tucker also helped the Knicks flip the switch tonight, focus on D points, offensive turnovers. Yeah, well said, Johnny. Tay says we need a villain. Yeah, I would agree as well. I think, you know, a lot of our fam want Isaiah Stewart, you know, from Detroit. You know, the good, we have good cops. We need a bad cop. You know, good cop, bad cop. A guy that's going to get the technicals, step to people when they need, make us more feared. But ultimately, I think as a play, that could be the first step. You know, when these big games roll around, play gritty, man. Even if you're going to lose the ball game, no layups, you know, easy buckets, man. Make them know that they've been in a hard fought game, and that's what we have not done against Cleveland, against Boston. One of the Oklahoma games, I thought we did it over, funnily enough, over in OKC. When OKC came to the Garden, it was a blowout, you know. But whenever we play Denver and whenever we play Memphis, we seem to play those teams well. You know, Cat gets up for the Joker matchup, you know. We've swept the Nuggets and we've swept the Grizz. And they seem to have success in the West. So whatever that is, man, it's a matchup thing. But I think Mitch being back adds that sort of size and physicalness, obviously in the paint. But Mitch is he's a chill dude, you know, personality wise. You know, he's not going to be a villain, you know, and we know for sure now PJ, like Johnny says, man, PJ Tucker's not going to be that villain either. You know, he was dapping up Draymond, Jimmy, the former teammates, etc. I'm not mad at him for that. I just guess the longer you've been in the league, the more likely you are to have been teammates with these dudes, and you are gonna, you know, you can't just like ignore them. You know, if you've been a teammate with Draymond, you ain't just gonna like slap him and walk away with Cat. You know. Having said that, Draymond knows what he done. You know, he knows he's trying to be smart. He's trying to show that, you know, that cheek by not apologizing or whatever, and that's him, man. That's on him. He's just that type of guy. You know, don't forget he did punch his teammate, man. He knocked out a teammate. He's done way more things to dislike him already than what he said about Cat. But yeah, man, I would love us to become no social Knicks for the playoffs, man. Just lock in. It's us against the world. You know, because again, the worst thing that can happen is a first round exit. Right. You know, we have way too much talent to go out in the first round this season, and it just should not happen. Whether it's Indiana, whether it's going to be Detroit, Milwaukee, whoever it's going to be, we're going to be the favorites, and we have to show up. You know, we have to show up and show that grit. Because I think if it's Detroit, they are going to try to turn that game into turn the series into like physical play, you know, prison ball. Johnny says Mitch is that enforcer we need. He's back. Intimidator, I would say. Yeah. Maybe not enforcer as much, but he's an intimidating presence with his size as well. And I really feel like the Knicks have done a great job easing Mitch back in. You know, they've ramped his minutes up slowly. He still looks gassed at times, but Tibbs has done well tonight to, you know, get him in and out of the game, get his win back, and get things going again. And so Mitch played almost 24 minutes, and was excellent, +8. And the rebounding was a big factor against two bigs, Bam Adebayo and against Khalil Ware. Right, so Could we see another player, a player move? I think PJ Tucker's 10-day deal will be coming up soon. I think they're going to extend PJ Tucker. They'll give him a second 10-day, from what I've seen, and then they'll solidify the deal for the rest of the season on a standard contract. And then I think in the last week of the season, the Knicks have a choice. They could cut DeLon Wright and maybe convert Beauchamp, convert another veteran, maybe TJ Warren. They could do that in the final week of the season. But let's see how that plays out. But I do think PJ Tucker will stay. He's here now, and I don't think he's going nowhere. So let's see, man. He might keep DeLon Wright, and maybe that's a situation where they like him for a defensive option down the stretch. But let's wrap this thing up, fam. I'm ready to go Wednesday night against the Spurs. Back on the road again for a short two-game trip, and then back at MSG against the Wiz. So yeah, Spurs, Charlotte, Wiz, and then back at Dallas. Fam, appreciate you all tonight. Great to see you. Thanks for the comments. Smash that like button. You've got the Knicks streets buzzing, and we'll see you on the next one. All. Let's enjoy this victory now and gear up for what's going to be a huge playoffs right now. It's hard to believe there's just 15 games to go. But yeah, man, I'm pleased with what I'm seeing from Mitchell Robinson and the team stepping up now without JB. They are showing some toughness that we didn't see earlier in the season now. With a defensive grit, top 2 defense in the last 10 games now. OG Anunoby's been a different demon since the All-Star break. Mikal Bridges is stepping up on both sides as well. Damn, so peace.